Let me tell you a little bit about Amerigroup. These pictures, by the way, one of the things you'll see is Amerigroup, our logo is Real Solutions in Healthcare. If you were to go on our webpage, you could click on these and see the stories. And we have a lot of stories about our members and how our employees are helping our members. Amerigroup, as it goes to the next slide, is, there we go. We've been in business for 17 years, so a relatively newer company. But what we do is we provide health insurance for some of the poorest and sickest folks in our country. So it's Medicare and it's Medicaid. So how does it work? As you can see here, you can also see our mission. Provide real solutions for members who need a little help in making the healthcare system work better while keeping it more affordable for taxpayers. And why is that important? The state is who are our ultimate customers. They pay us. To give you a business analogy, in case you don't know what managed care companies do, the state will probably pay us, give you an example, $1 for every member we have. We as a company have to provide that member with all their health care for less than $1 in order for us to make a profit. So we have to we look for around 85 cents of that dollar to go towards the care of our members. And a lot of our members, like I said, are some of our sickest members that we have in the whole United States. So it's a major challenge for us, but we've been able to do this because this is our specialty. Now, the next slide will tell you that just at the end of December, we were purchased. So we were purchased by a larger company called WellPoint. Many of you might be familiar with WellPoint. With that purchase, we, Amerigroup, became the Medicaid provider for both Amerigroup and WellPoint. So as you can see from the slide, and the slide before, we had 2 million members. With just that acquisition, we now have 4.5 million members throughout the United States. So we have a big population that we're trying to provide health insurance for. So later, I'm going to give you a little preview. I'm going to ask you for some of your great customer experience stories in the healthcare space, okay? So you can start thinking about those. Let me tell you a little bit about how we're organized. As you can see on the top left-hand side, we have health plans. In every one of our states, we have a CEO of that state, and that CEO is in charge of that state. So let's just take Virginia as an example. We have an office in Virginia. They take care of all the Medicare and Medicaid members in the state of Virginia, and they run that as a business, as an independent business. So that's and in those businesses you can see we have medical management, we have provider relations, those are our doctors, our hospitals, our partners, clinical, finance, so that's all in those individual health plans. Then on the bottom right-hand side, that's the corporate office. And I just put this slide in so you can see where I fit in. We have our corporate support services, and then we have our health plan support services, and that's where I fit in. I work in the customer service division. That means my boss is in charge of the national contact centers, and we have 5 contact centers around the country, as well as we do all the claims management and the quality analysis. So that's the part of the company that I'm in. How it came about in my particular position is my boss had this vision that this business is so competitive. And what is the difference in our products? In most states, there are 2 other companies like us. So every state has 2 or 3 managed care companies that are doing this kind of business. So what's the difference between us? So the vision my boss had is I want customer experience to be the differentiator. Now I will tell you that we're not there yet. We're still working on making that our differentiator, but I will be able to tell you where we are on that journey. And so, since I'm in customer service, and also we're talking about customer experience a lot here, what we wanted to talk to you about is how do you define it? What is your definition of customer service, and what are some good examples? So this is where the audience participation comes in at. All right? Who has a good definition of what is customer service? You're thinking, yes. Okay. Okay, great. Okay, good. Great definition. Anybody else? Anything else to add? Yes. Okay, good. Meeting the expectations. Anybody else have a thought process on that? Yes?
So I think that temporary service issue, what we actually control as customer experience is changing things that we don't think we can control.
What do you mean by we? Who are you speaking of?
So in the healthcare environment, that would be
Ah.
service would be things that the interaction with you as the insurance company actually has.
Okay,
While their experience also includes interactions related to insurance with providers.
good point. Yeah, good point. Great. Anyone else? Yes? Mm-hmm. That's a great definition. Anybody else? Those definitions are better than the one I came up with. So I have, and it's similar to what you said. I came up with the customer service is doing the basic activities that meet the customer experience expectations. So I think a lot of you said that, right? So if you called the call center at Amerigroup, what would your expectations be? Your expectations would be that somebody would pick up the phone, someone would be able to listen to you, and then they would give you an answer to what you're asking for, right? You wouldn't want to be on hold, or you wouldn't want to get to the phone and nobody will be there. So there's just some basic things that we really need to do to make sure we're delivering customer service. What I looked at in the past, and I went back and I said, back in the day, and I can think of back in my days when I was with Xerox, we weren't saying words like customer experience, right? This was like 15 years ago. We weren't saying that. We were talked about customer satisfaction, and back in those days, that was the key measure. As long as the customer was satisfied, we gave a thumbs up. But today, as you can see here, my proposal to you is that customer service and customer sat, which is similar to what you just said, are part of the customer experience. So at this point, I'd like to see if you have a good example of, can somebody share with me a great customer service experience and maybe a bad customer service experience? Just customer service, not experience. Yes? Okay. We usually know those first, right away? Okay.
I have a son who breaks everything, but he loves technology and we buy him things that he's doing great. So we bought him a pair of Beats headphones. And I guess what I didn't understand is Monster and Beats was the partnership. And they separated ways, so Beats went one way and Monster went the other. He's broken his headphones many times. When Monster was part of the brand, they replaced them. No questions asked, they replaced them.
Okay.
He somehow lost a piece of the headphones. So I called the company and I explained, I said, I'm willing to pay to get this piece so that my son can use these headphones again. And they said, we don't have any way to give you that piece. We don't sell it. We haven't figured out how to do our customer service yet.
They said that. Wow.
They said we were really not
Okay.
sure. We are thinking about selling parts, but we're not selling them yet. So I kind of gave it up for a while, and I saw these headphones again, and I called and I said, there's got to be something that you can do. I'll buy a pair of refurbished headphones. I'll send them to you. You can figure out what. They said, we really have nothing new. So I wrote a letter to the president of the company
Okay.
with a picture of the headphones. No response. So it's yes, my kids still want those pieces of headphones.
If I were you, I'd call Zappos. I think that's the answer. Zappos would be able to help you. That's not a good story, right? No, I appreciate you sharing that. How about anybody have had a good experience? Customer, yeah. Okay. Okay. Good, good. So you used the word experience, and it was a good experience, but it was also just a basic customer service call, is your point. And so there is a difference, but what I'm going to ultimately ask you is, which is more important? Okay, so you can keep that in your mind. So now we'll move into the customer experience. Again, same kinds of question. How would you define? We already had one person that said to us that the customer experience is the feeling, it's bigger than the customer service. Anybody else want to add as to their definition of good customer experience? Yes. Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. Uh-huh. So tell me why that was a good experience versus just customer service.
Because it's contrasted with prior experiences I've had with real estate transactions.
Okay.
They would select the place I
Okay.
have to drive an hour and a half across town.
Okay.
And be sitting there for an hour waiting for, things not to pay.
Okay.
And it would wind up being a half a day kind of event that I would have to take time off work for.
Okay.
And this one I didn't, they did it on weekends.
So it was proactive for you? It was convenient for you? Great. Okay. All right. Let me just tell you what I wrote down for customer experience, and I'll let you challenge if you think this is not a good definition. I have two parts to it. One is the customer experience is the sum experiences the customer has during the full time of their relationship, right? So if I think back of Amerigroup and I have a member, so when they first start with us, and they call us about their doctor, or I mentioned this yesterday, they need a doctor, and they call us up. It's not just that call, in my mind, is the customer service. It's, answering their questions. But the whole experience, right? They then go to the doctor, which I think you guys were mentioning back there. Do we control that? Yes, maybe no. We've had other people today talking about their partners and how they train. I think that was US Cellular. But they now go to the doctor. They have an experience, and then maybe they even go to a pharmacy, and then they have an experience. So to me, the entire part of it is the customer experience. It's also connecting the companies with their customers across all touch points. I think the things that Zappos talked about is a good example of touching their customers at different times. So this is where we want to be as a company, more focused on the whole experience. I would tell you that I'm not sure we're there yet. And again, the past, I think I already talked about that. Customer sat was good enough. But today, customer experience is really the differentiator. And I think that that's why we're all focused on it and why we're all here, is because we know how important that is. It's what you talked about, is how you felt. And somebody else mentioned that as well. It's how you felt about the experience, which is most important. Because how you feel about it will definitely impact how you feel about that company. So to my last bullet on this slide, the reason why I think customer experience is so important is that it really defines you as a company. It defines your reputation. It's what people talk about when they have a good or not so good experience. So we've had one good story of a good experience, which is a little bit broader than a customer service. Anybody want to share any other story? Yes?
Yeah, this actually relates to healthcare.
Okay, great.
So every year, my wife wants me to go to the doctor for the going all the time. So it's usually maybe every 18 months, every 2 years I'll go. And my doctor actually takes the time after the visit to send me a handwritten note
Wow.
to go over the labs and all that stuff and not remember everything's okay. But he does that every year. He's done that every year since I've been going to him. And I tell my friends that, and they're like blown away. Usually never heard back from the doctor. So he takes the time to actually do that. Wow. In terms of your definitions, I actually learned something, read something that's pretty interesting. And it's really more about the hospitality world, less about healthcare, but it can be applied to it, I think. So Danny Meyer, famous restaurateur in New York, he wrote this book that a client recommended that we read called Setting the Table. He makes a distinction between customer service and hospitality. And when he says his customer service is doing something to somebody, and hospitality is doing something for somebody. And that a lot of industries outside of hospitality, restaurants, applies to customer experience.
Right.
He makes the distinction between customer service and hospitality.
Right. That's great. Thank you for sharing that. It's a great story. How many other folks get a handwritten note back from your doctor after you've had your annual checkup? So you're right, that's pretty unique. So that is a great experience, and I might have to take that back at home and see if our doctors are willing to do that as well. So bottom line is we understand how important that is. So the question is, which is more important? If you had a choice, if you could only do one or the other, what would you do? Why?
Well, I say experience goes with the group. The total package really is the customer experience in my mind.
Okay.
The total package is the walking away feeling good, feeling bad. That's
Okay. All right. Anyone else? Yes.
Well, you can't always necessarily solve their problems. So it's a lot more about what that experience was because it is possible to walk away from a experience without a result and come back to you because of that.
It could, but it also could be the opposite. What you just said is they had a good experience, but we didn't solve their problem. So how many of you have ever had that happen? Where you called an 800 number or something, you called for something, they didn't solve it. I mean, did you feel good about it? Okay. And you believe that? No. Oh. Right? That's great. That's great. Anybody else? Yes, Jim.
I would say in a lot of ways, actually, customer service is transactional
Mm-hmm.
versus customer experience is more relationship.
Okay.
Right? And so with the customer experience, you have more feeling and emotion,
Mm-hmm.
and you're going to customer service thing.
Mm-hmm. So which is more important? Okay. You think so? All right. Anyone else? And does anybody think customer service is more important? Everybody's here is customer experience. Yes. Okay.
First of all, based on your definition,
Uh-huh.
right? Customer experience is the accumulation of all of customer service.
Right.
Service interactions, then customer experience should get customer experience, but you need customer service.
Okay. Yeah, and I think that's a little bit, I'm just trying to play a little devil's advocate a little bit. I mean, I think we all would love to have the right customer experience all the time. But I know myself, I've had those situations where I called and I did not get my answer. And I actually had a situation where they were, then at the end, they're trying to upsell me and try to be all nice. And I'm like, no, I called for this reason, you didn't solve it. You know, until, my comment back was, until you take care of this issue, I really don't want to talk to you about anything else. And so to me, I'm sure some of you, I see you nodding your heads, I'm sure you've been in that situation. So to me, if you can't do the customer service part right, I think you might have a hard time getting to the customer experience. And that's a little bit of my philosophy here. Yes?
So to go along with that, I think that one of the hardest days I've had to fly across the country was also one of the days that I had the best airline customer service I've ever had.
Okay.
My husband and I were going from Philadelphia to San Francisco on Southwest, and we missed our flight by like 10 minutes because the wait was so slow. And within half an hour, they had us on another flight, and it was like I think 3 stops on the way across the country.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but they had us on that flight, and the second or third stop was in Denver, Colorado. But it was
San Francisco? No.
And my husband and I were looking at each other and said, you know, but Dad, they're already on another plane, and Arizona's a hub, San Francisco's a hub. Why don't we get off of this plane and get on a different one so that we don't have to do it two
Ah,
times?
yeah. Huh?
And let us do that.
Wow.
And it was early enough in the day that we were choosing the plane. So it was one of the longest and most stressful travel days, but they and the customer delight. They were so flexible.
Right. So they were able to come back and do sort of service recovery, as we've talked about, and get the basics, which is the basic for you was to get to your end result, right? Now, had they said to you, you're stuck in Phoenix, and oh, well, we have no idea, and we'll check with you tomorrow, you might not be feeling the same way.
Well, and they let us off the plane.
Yeah?
Nobody else was getting off the plane.
Yeah.
We all had to go back to the
Yeah. Well, good. Thank you for sharing that. Anyone else? Anyone else have the thoughts on these? Yes, we got this one right here. Yes.
So I work in operations, and we talk about customer service and customer experience.
Yes.
And I work for a grocery store chain, and
Giant Eagle.
and you know, at the end of the day, if you don't have what the customer wants on the shelf, if you can provide the best service in the world,
Right. Okay.
so to your point, you feel like that's service we're providing.
Right.
Operation, and it is part of the experience,
Yes, it is.
I guess, but I don't know, it's almost like if you don't have the basics, you can't have it.
Right, and I think what we're hearing today is, there could be ways that even if you don't have the basics, you can make, get around it and still leave the customer feeling good. We've had a couple examples of that, but I agree with that. Yes.
No, I was just thinking from that.
Okay.
I work with ACs, they might think customer service and that, but there are a lot of things that tell us the experience, product selection, environmental, things like that. So we can over time absolutely say that the overall experience,
Mm-hmm.
difference in that overall experience, 40% of that difference is cost.
Is what?
It's a function of customer service. Everything else is beneficial.
Okay.
But the biggest contributor to good customer service
Mm-hmm. Right.
or 40% of the
Yeah, so I think that's where we conclude in this discussion. So I appreciate your participation on that. So I think that's a great way to summarize it. That you really, if you really were not delivering the customer service, you're going to have a hard time reaching your goals of having a great customer experience. But having said that, I think we're all in agreement that customer experience is the bigger picture and really where we want to get to. I've just put a couple of bullets here about things that we're doing in terms of creating a good customer experience. And again, I start with the notion you got to start with the basics. You got to get the customer service down. And then from that point on, you can take it up. And really, in my mind, it's sort of the parity line, right? You got to get the basics, and then once you get that going, you can do that differentiated. You could do some of the fun things that your companies are doing and others to really enhance the experience. We've talked about this, understanding your voice of the customer, what do they want, and then training your employees to make sure that they're adding that value. To me, that's where you get to the experience part. And then communicating the successes that you're having with that, and as many people have talked about it, having your customers tell the story. It's always better if they're telling the story versus if you tell the story. And obviously, like all of us, we need to measure those results. So let me tell you some of the things we've done at Amerigroup as we've started this initiative to try to get folks to understand. So the first year I was in the assignment, we started something called a community of practice. And what we did is we grabbed some people throughout the whole company, not just in customer service, and we had a group of 20 or 25 folks, and we met on a monthly basis. And we sat around the table and we talked about these kinds of things. We talked about what is the difference between customer experience and customer service. It was a new word for folks at our company. They really weren't sure what it is. It goes back to what Ruth was talking about. Are we all looking at the same thing and understanding the same thing? So we did that. We actually, as part of it, went to Zappos. We identified companies that we felt were really ahead of us in terms of the experience, and we wanted to learn from them. When we went to Zappos, we came back and said, okay, that's not our culture, but there were things in there that we loved. As a matter of fact, one of the things we took from them And I'm not sure if you guys elaborate on this, but one of the things they do is go to other departments and spend time so people can appreciate what they do. And so what we did as my staff, once a quarter, we did a fun event. And what we decided, instead of us just doing it ourselves, we picked a department within the company that we really didn't have any interaction with. And in our case, it happened to be the finance department. We didn't really know them very well. We invited them to come with us to we went bowling, something as simple as that. And so we did that as an example of something that we had learned from another company. QVC happens to be in our backyard, so we went to them as well. They also have a good reputation. So we have identified several companies. And then we all went out for exercises. And I mean, we all went out and did homework, let me say it that way. We asked everybody, just like we had this discussion today, because when you talk about it and when you hear the stories of what's a good experience and what is not, I think you start getting it. And so we had 1 month, we said, everybody go out, pick 2 places, and evaluate the experience, and come back and tell us about it. And I think I was sharing this before. We went to a grocery store in Virginia Beach, and the lady at the end of the cash register said, oh, were you able to find everything you were looking for? And this is the guy who was on our team, and he says, you know, what if I said no? I didn't find everything. She went like this. Oh, I don't know. They didn't tell us what happens if you say that. They just said, ask the question. And she was like panicked, you know. And but we took that back, and we brought that back to our department and said, you know what? We cannot ask our folks, our associates, to say something like that at the end of the call unless we're prepared to give them the talk track to answer that, because that's part of the experience. The other thing that we did is surveys. So we have a post-call survey, and this was a big aha for us. We did that at the end of last year, and when we asked them on a scale of 1 to 5, how would you evaluate your experience with Amerigroup, we had some that said a 2. We said, whoa. So we had an alert system set up. We called them back. We said, you gave us a 2. Can you tell us why you didn't rate us higher? 90%, 99% of the time, it was not our associate. And that's what we thought. It was because they said, you know what? I have a toothache, and you don't cover dental. They said, I'm still waiting for my wheelchair to be delivered, and I don't know where it's at. They even said, I called my caseworker, and her voicemail is full. Because of those things, they rated us a 2. So we took that knowledge, and we have been going gangbusters throughout the company to make sure that everybody understands that we're all connected and that we cannot score high on our customer satisfaction. We have a major, and those in healthcare probably know it, a CAP survey that's done annually. It's run by the government, and it's advertised on everyone's webpage, and how you rate in member satisfaction. And if that's what's happening, we have to make sure that all of us understand that, and of vendors as well. So we're more actively spreading the word now to let everyone know that we all have to be in the boat together. Sharing the voice of customer, I mentioned that yesterday. We have a listening post that we're launching for our executives so they can actually listen to phone calls. And every opportunity I get to speak, I show either one of these videos or I show a clip from our focus groups, because it is so much more powerful, as you probably all know in this room, to physically hear it from a member, than for me to tell you that our members are saying they can't find doctors in this particular geography. What's wrong? It's better when they hear it from a member. Educate our employees and encourage fun. That's what we're doing now. We have a program called Enrich the Member Experience, and we're launching that, and we are launching it internally. Educating all of our associates, as I just mentioned before, pharmacy, case management, our nurse helpline. We are, even all of our associates on the phone, we're letting them know that this survey goes out, let them know what's in the survey. The questions that they ask in the survey about our associates is, over the last 6 months, has Amerigroup's customer service associated treated you with dignity and respect? Have they also give you help that you needed? Those are the questions that directly come back to us as associates. The trick, though, and for many years at Amerigroup, as soon as they heard the word customer service, I don't know if this happens in your company, they assumed it was the call center folks. And it's not. It's not just the call center folks. So we're on a little bit of a campaign to let everyone know that when they say customer service, they're talking about all of us, every single employee. So that's a little bit of what we're doing right now. And then the last piece here, and so let me back up to say, we did some fun things. We actually passed out cookies because we all know that food works. And so we've just done some fun things to make sure everyone knows that we need to enrich the members' experience. And that's sort of our internal marketing campaign that we put together. And then the last thing is goes back to where I started. We know we have some gaps. We know what they are. And so as I'm working with my boss and we say, how do we improve the customer experience? You know, we've looked at training programs, we've looked at lots of things, but we've decided that this year, we're going to take the top 3 to 5 things that we know from a customer service standpoint are irritants to our members. And we're going to, one by one, fix them and check them. Because I don't know if this happens in your company, but some of these things on the list, they've been on the list for a while. You know? And we keep saying, oh yeah, we need to take care of that, or somebody else is going to take care of it. So that's a lot of what we are doing at this point. Just to give you some real live examples on a bigger scale from a technology standpoint, we have just finally allowed to our, your smartphone, and many of you might not know this, but our Medicaid population, when we've done focus groups with them and asked them, how do you want to get information? They all hold up their phone. They say that they don't pay for the internet at home and on their phone. They're going to make one choice, and they're going to use the phone. So we've just started to get smarter about this and try to use the phone. As a matter of fact, they want us to have more apps. We don't have them, and it's a little hard with the HIPAA information. But when a customer calls us, a member calls us now and says, I can't find my ID card, and I need to get an ID card, we now have an app. So they can download it, they can get it to their phone so that they can go to the doctor. And by doing this, we've already, in just the first couple of months, have had lots of savings by doing that. So it's a good example of technology. Again, our call center folks, we brought in an integrated desktop, and that's been able to allow our associates to maneuver the many screens that they have to maneuver so that we could be more responsive to our members. And as you can see here, by training on that, it made the training easier, so our training is faster, and we're able to get to our customers a lot easier. So that was an initiative. And then the last one, anyone that's in the healthcare space might know the latest thing, and if not, this is a thing for you to know, is that this new thing is called dual eligible members. These are people who have both Medicaid, right? That means they're the poorest people in our country, and Medicare, which means either they're disabled or they're seniors, but they have both. And so we've been set up as a company, 2 separate call centers, 2 separate systems, because they've been 2 different products, if you will, product knowledge for our associates. Now we have to merge that. So we've put together a dedicated business unit that is designed to be able to do that so that we can do coordination of care, which is the big thing, right? So if you're in the healthcare space, you talk about a customer experience. If you're sick and you're calling first of all, nobody wants to call their health insurance company, right? Because usually if you're calling them, that means something's wrong, right? Because otherwise you're just operating. So now you're calling them, you don't want them to say, what? I don't know what you're talking about. Let me transfer you, right? So we're working on some broad things to improve the customer experience, and we're working on some, real basic things from a customer service standpoint. So let me just stop here and see what questions you might have. Yes?
In the back.
Oh, sorry, there you are.
This is a great presentation, Penny. A question, so you talk about getting customer service standards kind of in place first. Have you taken any time to kind of define, your ultimate future state of customer experience? And how long do you think that transformation will take place? It's obviously an always ongoing process, but...
So yes, the answer is yes. We have looked at that and we have actually documented it. I don't know the answer to the second part, how long it'll take us to get there. And sometimes when you have a vision, it's okay that you don't get there. It's just your true north, right? You're getting there. But when we look at ourselves and we look at our competition and we look and say, what's different? What do we want to be known for? And what we've said is we want to be the managed care company that's known for being compassionate. And so by being compassionate, what I'd love to happen 2 years from now, a year from now, 6 months from now, is people say, I only want Amerigroup because they are the compassionate ones. They understand me, they get me, they help me. But that would be something that would be, that is our vision as to where we want to go. I'll have to be back and tell you whenever we get there. So there's a lot that needs to happen, as you can imagine, especially with the whole WellPoint merger. That was the Amerigroup vision, and now with the new merger, we'll have to, consider how we maneuver that with 4 million members. But that's where we're going. Yeah. Questions? Yes.
One second.
So how are you deciding, I can see your dual eligibility effort is probably one of your customer experience things, but how are you deciding what to prioritize and which ones to
Good question.
pick off first?
So we actually created a list probably 4 or 5 months ago of what we thought were the current known issues. Then what we did is we actually talked across the whole organization. Probably have talked about 20, 25 of our key executives across the organization, and I shared that list with them. And said, and based on your information, am I missing anything? Secondly, we said, from your world, and I talked to the provider, head of provider, what is most important? So we got feedback from them, and we've been able to nail it down to a top 5. And so we looked at, a prioritization as well as effort, and to get the top 5 items. And so we're working on those right now to try to check those off. But we also classified those that would be truly process improvements. And then on the second side, we put some of these things maybe are not a re-engineering of the process, but it's really educational. And so we classified the 2 different buckets, and now we're working on the first bucket.